And good morning to everybody on another day on Morning Coffee with Marcaida, running late today. So, before I jump into anything else, I'd like to make this a continuation of what we were talking about yesterday. What's the plan, man? So, once again, the idea is that if you develop a habit of creating plans, it gives you a known factor. You know where you're starting, you know where you're at during, and you know where you're going after. And that's pretty much a way to look at and say, hey, it's not set in stone, but it does give you a habit of knowing where you are at all times. Knowing the processes of this is where I started. I can assess and reassess because I have a known factor. We used the clock system. The clock system was, once again, you're starting from one angle to the other angle, one point to another point, one point to another point. It gives you a known. If I say from 1 to 7, there's a 1, there's a 7. There's an 11 through 5. I can go from 5 to 11 or a 9 to 3. You have patterns to follow. Now, just like in life, when you look at things, you have a plan, but nothing ever falls exactly. It's not a perfect world to follow the plan. Things happen in between. Well, that's where you also have to develop the ability to adapt, the ability to be flexible. Even in knife making, when you're making a blade, quenching the blade, making it hard is not enough. You have to temper the blade so the blade stays strong but doesn't become brittle. Because if it's too hard and brittle, it'll crack, it'll break apart. Just like your plans. The thing to have a plan is, we'll take the clock system again. There are numbers everywhere. All these numbers are knowns. So if I took something from 1 to 5, and then we go 11 to 12, somewhere in between from 1, I exit at 9 for whatever reasons. I go 1 to 9, or enter to 9, I go out at 5. Or I enter at 5, I go out to 7. So if I didn't have these knowns, I would simply do all this. Yeah, I got my point done in training. But if asked, okay, Doug, what you just do? I just moved the blade. But if you're able to say, no, I entered from 1, I went through 7, entered from 9, exited at 5, entered at 5, went up to 1, I know exactly where I am at all times. So it's good to be able to be flexible enough to create things. I just go with it. I just go with the flow. That's great. But how do you recreate that? Sometimes in life, we have to become teachers. Sometimes in life, when we have children, we have to guide our children. So if we're always going with the, just go with the flow, how do I teach my kids what made me me? How do I teach my followers? How do I teach my students? You have to have a plan to follow. Doesn't mean that you're not going to teach them to be able to just break away from that plan. Plans are just guidelines for us, but you have to have a point of contact or a point of reference for everything that you do, so you can also replicate it, so that you can also teach it and pass it on. Let's say in military tactics, right? So, okay, here we are. We're in special force. We're going to come in. There's the village. Attack! Doesn't happen that way, because what happens during the attack? A lot of things happen. No, this is the start. Here's our start point. Here's our insertion. That's our extraction. That's the mission. We're going to go in. Now, here's plan A. Now, if plan A doesn't go well, you have plan B. If plan B doesn't go in, you have plan C. Even when you go to your extraction points, you have to know all these different contingencies. That's the habit. But if you don't have these knowns, which is part of the plan of instruction, you're not going to know where you are at all points. You're just winging it. And winging it can be good because it develops good things, but it's better to always know something so that you can wing it and you know exactly where you are every time you have to adapt or change your plan. Plans are there to give us a guideline, but you should also be able to, at all times, redirect that guideline. How do you do that? Always have the known. Know all the numbers around the clock. Know the different pathways that you have to perfect that piece first. And then you can break away from that. It's like the ABCs. You can't start making up words if you don't know the basics from A to Z. Then you start having letters. If you know each letter, you can start spelling. Now, A, how many ways to spell a cat? C-A-T. T-A-C is a different word. Or what about T-A-A or C-C-T? Now you have all these different combinations because you have the known, and that known was the alphabet to begin with. Well, I gotta catch my ride to work. I hope that this makes sense to all of you. The plans are always there to just give you a guideline so that you're able to do that in anything that you do, whether it's martial arts, it's training, it's writing, or life. But also have the ability to adapt and to be able to shall we say, teach that part of what your process is. You have to know the knowns. Doug Marcaida here. Cup of Joe to get me up. Always good. Take care, guys. Have a good day.